I get it, there's a ton of network video recorders out there that look amazing on the product page, only to turn out clunky when you actually try to get live footage of your parking lot or warehouse. You spend a weekend wrestling with firmware, plugging cables into the wrong ports, and then realize the storage you thought would be enough fills up in a day. That kind of disappointment is what makes me pause before I even click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So before you invest in a recorder that could end up as an expensive paperweight, let's walk through why the Ubiquiti Enterprise Network Video Recorder, often just called the ENVR, might actually be the right fit, and where it could leave you wishing you'd gone a different route. First off, the ENVR is built for a very specific environment, a professional, multi-camera installation that already lives in the UniFi ecosystem. If you've got a handful of indoor cameras for a small office and you're comfortable using a consumer-grade NVR, this is probably overkill. But if you manage a chain of retail stores, a data center campus, or a municipal building where uptime matters, the ENVR's design choices start to line up with what you need. The most noticeable advantage is the redundancy built right into the chassis. It ships with 2 hot swap power supplies, which means you can replace a failed PSU without shutting the whole system down. In a 24/7 operation, that translates to 0 video loss when a power hiccup occurs. I've seen small businesses lose critical footage because a single PSU failed and the NVR rebooted. Those gaps can be a legal nightmare. The ENVR eliminates that risk out of the box, which is a big part of its value proposition. Next, consider the network side of things. The unit offers 2 10 GbE SFP plus uplinks and an additional 10 GbE RJ45 port. That's not just fast for the sake of bragging rights, it's a practical necessity when you're aggregating streams from dozens of high-resolution cameras. In a test setup I observed at a logistics hub, the network switch was already saturated with 4K streams, and the 10 gigabit uplinks kept the video feed smooth without any frame drops. If you're still on a 1 GbE backbone, you'll need to upgrade your switch or accept throttled performance, which is a hidden cost many first-time buyers overlook. Storage flexibility is another strong point. The ENVR accepts a standard 3.5-inch HDD or SSD, letting you size the drive according to your retention policy. For a site that needs to keep 30 days of footage from 32 cameras at 1080p, you'll be looking at roughly 12 terabytes of raw data. Plug in a 12 terabytes enterprise-grade HDD, and the recorder handles it without a hiccup. The real-world benefit shows up when you factor in the cost per gigabyte of an SSD versus an HDD. You can start with a modest HDD for baseline storage and later swap in an SSD for faster write speeds if you decide to go for higher frame rates or longer retention. The hot swap drive bays make that transition painless. Now, let's talk about the software side. Ubiquiti's UniFi Protect UI is clean, browser-based, and integrates tightly with the rest of the UniFi console. If you're already managing UniFi APs, switches, and gateways, adding the ENVR feels like extending the same management pane rather than learning a completely new system. You can set motion detection zones, schedule recordings, and get push notifications to your phone without hopping between apps. That unified experience is a genuine time saver for IT teams juggling multiple platforms. But there are trade-offs you need to be aware of. UniFi Protect is deliberately a closed ecosystem, meaning the ENVR only records from Ubiquiti cameras. If you have an existing mix of ONVIF or third-party cameras, they won't show up in the interface. That restriction can force a costly camera swap or require you to run a separate NVR for the non-Ubiquiti gear. It's not a flaw in the hardware, it's a strategic design choice that can bite you if you weren't expecting it. Another practical consideration is the physical footprint. The ENVR is a rack-mountable 1U unit, which is perfect for a data center rack but can be awkward for a small server closet where you only have a couple of shelf spaces. You'll need to allocate proper ventilation because the dual PSUs and the high throughput network ports generate noticeable heat. In environments without forced airflow, you might see the drive temperature climb, which could shorten its lifespan. Adding a small rack fan isn't expensive, but it's an extra step you don't think about until the unit is already installed. The price point reflects all these enterprise-grade features. It isn't cheap, and that's where some buyers get tripped up. If you compare it to a consumer ENVR that runs on a single 1 GbE port and a basic HDD, the ENVR will cost several times more. However, you have to weigh that against the cost of downtime, the value of seamless power redundancy, and the reduced administrative overhead when everything lives under a single unified dashboard. 4.